Hello and welcome to the Kundalini podcast. That was Zen. This is Tom. I'm Vivek. Namaste. This is episode 121. Today I'm in beautiful Santa Monica, Wilshire Boulevard, and about to go inside a Target and do some shopping. So I thought I'd make a video as I was doing it. One of the main things that I've been trying to achieve through this podcast is give you an idea of my transformation and how it has exactly happened. So continuing in that same vein, what I'd like to say is, so how do I talk about transformation was a big issue for me until last episode, and I found the way to exactly communicate what I would like to. I started seeing it as a way of leaving notes to your future self, and then you have a way of gauging the progress by going back to that same person by posting videos on YouTube, for example. So it keeps you grounded when you're in chaotic times where you have a transformation going on. You don't know what's going to come out at the other end. That's the scary part, but it's a beautiful process waiting for you at the end if you go through the hardship, the difficulty, and the tough times, and know why they are being brought in your life. Be patient, let them happen, come out at the other end, and this is why. And that's why you have these books, the Bible, etc. Because it's going to be mental chaos. You're being faced with your own demons. You have to purify them, go through it. There's no easy way. No one can show you. It's your own individualized process. And having to face it all by yourself, coming out at the other end, not knowing if you are going to come out at the other end and how you are going to come out at the other end, you start looking for answers. And you say, okay, let me just leave these notes for myself. So smart. There's this thing called YouTube. That's new. Maybe let's give it a try. You've seen my previous videos. It began because my daughter was born, and there's this new tool called YouTube, which came out in like 2006. My daughter was born in 2008. By 2010, it had become a thing, YouTube. And I thought, okay, hey, good way for us in the future. My old self, I remember thinking was, hey, in the future we'll have these videos to access from anywhere. Wow, what a wonderful thing. What a wonderful, magical thing the cloud is. Right, that was the thinking back then. And it came up true. Like now I see my daughter sitting on a carousel when she was young, and I send the link to her on her iPhone that she's watching, and we are connected. We are in that future. So got me thinking based on the last episode and this, why I had put YouTube videos to begin with. And it's like leaving notes from your old self, past self, to your future self. And successfully receiving that message in the bottle sent by your past self during trying times when that self didn't know where that end would be, what that person would look like, and just believing in God, and in this process unfolding in their back, they trusted in certain techniques, and this is who came out at the end, and that person is receiving the message by looking at the videos and making more videos. So the journey between the previous channel and this channel, you could say, is almost like a new person, because every single one of the episodes made on this new channel has been from places in California since my separation from my ex-wife, and landing on the West Coast. Then COVID happened, a bunch of things happened, but coming out of that is when I started making these videos. So it was the upswing from what had begun in my Kundalini process back in North Carolina, where I used to live, and my house in the previous channel, you probably saw that in the background, and my daughter. Now, my daughter and my ex-wife live in North Carolina. I live here in California, and I'm trying to do other things led by the Kundalini awakening. And now I see, this is why I was led in this direction. Now it all makes sense. And it took until the last 6 months for all the pieces to fall into place, so that now I can say, I finally see the end of the tunnel. I see that light, and I'm heading towards it, and it looks beautiful because of things I did before. So at that time, that note becomes important that you left for yourself, whether it was 6 months ago, which was episode 109 in this series, or 4 years ago, which was episode 69, and that was the end of it. And I was just abruptly gone for about 4 years, and people were wondering what's happening. So transformation and how to express it also has these metaphors, also has these beautiful ways of expressing yourself, and they have to be used. The Kundalini journey is a very poetic journey through parables because everything is involved. It's not just your rational faculties like intellect. It's your lived experience, the outside world, the inside world, your emotions, attachments, loved ones, personal history, aspirations, past defeats, how they molded you. Did you struggle? Did you overcome something? Or did you stay stuck at a certain level? Because all of us have done that. In certain fields, we have overcome and achieved something, but in an imbalance with other things where we have had defeat, and those defeats have not been healed the right way, so that we cannot make progress in the right way. All of this jumble of mess of personality that we carry around changes, and it becomes a story of your life. Hence, parables, stories, tales, mystical concepts come into the picture, like Zen stories and beautiful parables told by people like Rumi and other people. So the story part of it is important because it's not just a rational development, left brain oriented scientific, can be measured in hormones and levels of creatine in your body or whatever it is, lab levels that they do. It's not like that. So hence the parable stories, etc. So the story of transformation has been told in many ways, in many stories. The story of a hero goes through many trials and comes out at the other end in an archetypal way. The Ramayana in Hinduism, Odyssey, Iliad, Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, Luke Skywalker, all of those things. The journey of the hero. Because the dark night of the soul and what happens during a Kundalini process very closely resembles all of these things. But the individual story will differ because separate individual. They awaken. There are many lotus pods in the pond and one pod blooms, which doesn't mean that other lotus pods don't have that potential. They just haven't bloomed yet. That is this lifetime. And that pod on that day, that lifetime is a day. That's it. Other ones shall bloom sometime in the future, depending on when they first, became birds. But the lotus pod that blooms and opens up looks at everything from an illuminated perspective and brings that illumination to everything, an insight to everything. So that individual story has elements like, parents, where you grew up, how was your childhood, how you got to the point where you awakened, what brought you there. And that becomes raw material for what gets transmuted in a cauldron, almost like a smelting of different metals to bring about an alloy that's much, much stronger than the sum of parts of all of those metals individually. Right? That's what happens with those memories, experiences, trauma, and how you transmuted it in varying degrees. And what's right for you? Maybe it's a parable-based experience that guides you, like Tolkien, Lord of the Rings, and that's his story, and he wrote it that way. That's why it's elaborate with languages, mythology, characters. It's all your inner landscape. How wild and vivid it was in the past is the raw material for creating the new you or revealing the new you. It's much stronger. So instead of saying discarding layers, one analogy, remember it's just one analogy, one thing that's happening. I'd say taking raw materials from your past life, including everything, happiness, trauma, imbalances, smelting it in that foundry and making it into an alloy that's much stronger is the best way to put it, that transmutation. If you count everything from my gap for 3 years and this new channel, and this being the end point or close to it for the journey that began in 2006. That's me saying hi to that guy from 2006 and saying, hey, yeah, it ended up well and I'm fine. 2022, right here. Like, so there's a movie called Shawshank Redemption. There's a beautiful scene where on the beach he meets his friend. Finally, he has left clues to let him know where he is, and that friend follows the clues and finds him. It kind of feels like that, except it's me from 2006 meeting me myself here. And yeah, all the things worked. One way to describe it is like you're living in a big mansion that you bought, let's say 5 years ago, and you moved all your stuff from your old house, right? And now some junk is just sitting in a storage. Today, 5 years later, after living in that big mansion, you decided to open that box. And that box contains a lot of paperwork from the past, right? So this is your investments folder, where, in my case, I'm speaking from personal example. We had to go through a lot of paperwork, and we bought a house, mortgage, etc. But one box out of many boxes was just about our investments, what we had done. And we weren't the biggest investors or anything like that, but we did pause, reflect when that option was given, when those papers were given by the employer or whoever, the benefits manager, HR. And we would think, oh, what's the best option for 5 years later? And after that, forget it. And chose those options. We had taken that 15-minute session to do that, along with dental insurance, medical, benefits, right? And those papers, and when you're sitting in the mansion, you look at it like, oh, that's why I'm sitting in a mansion. And you think about many alternate histories without that box. So that box is what got you in that big place that you're living in the last 5 years. Let's say the previous 15 years have been spent struggling, but you made that one wise decision and that money kept growing. You never even thought about it. But when you found it is when you decided to make these other plans. Oh, wow, well, we can afford this. Because you were smart. That's a note left by your old self to you to read in the future. See that? And that's true about life. And that box is your focused intent. The smart moves that you made that may have just taken 15 minutes but set the course long term. Better habits that you chose, bad habits that you gave up. And the sum total of that, you want to be the person in the mansion reading that box like, what's this? You have even forgotten about your past because you live in the present. Now you think you have other problems. You think the mansion is okay, good, but I got to get this fixed and I need to get the pool and the tub and my second, third car. Do I need a third car? That guy opens the box when you were in a beat up old 10-year-old car in an apartment, making those decisions. Right? That's a note left by your past self to your future self. Make sure that note is from a mansion, okay? Metaphorically speaking, about your life. Make sure you have made the right decisions and what that formula is of karma, of the right decision making, along with the mental content that you can fix with these metaphysical means, mystical means like meditation and mindfulness. For that, sometimes parables are needed. Other times, just emptying of your mind and your personal discipline for habits is needed. I hope you found this helpful. This is Vivek Govekar signing off. Peace, love, blessings. Be well.